Honourable member for Peterborough Court.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And as always, it is an honour to stand in the House of Commons to represent the constituents of Peterborough Kawartha. Today I rise to speak on motion 59 put forward by the member from London West, and I appreciate her passion and initiative on this motion. And the motion is, it calls on the government to work with all relevant stakeholders in upholding a federal framework to improve access to adaptable, affordable housing for individuals with non-visible disabilities. Now, Madam Speaker, we have an intersection of crises in this country. We have a mental health crisis. We have an addiction crisis. We have an affordability crisis with interest rates on the rise. We have a definition of affordable housing that is 80% of fair market value. That is not affordable to most people. We have a housing crisis and we have a homelessness crisis across this country. And none of these things are exclusive to each other. And they have one common thread: housing. This national housing strategy put forth by the Liberal government is an epic failure. And I absolutely support this motion, and I support the work that is being done. But it is imperative that we speak up and call out why we are even in this position to have this motion put forth in the first place. This should have been built in to the national housing strategy. Why, 5 years later, is this being put forth as a motion? It's absurd. It's a rinse and repeat cycle of this Liberal government that is constantly in reactive mode instead of thinking ahead. Last Friday, Madam Speaker, I went to a homelessness crisis meeting in my riding of Peterborough Kawartha. Now, the winter months, pardon me, I have to move this chair. The winter months are upon us, and I know across this country, members from all ridings will agree with me that they probably have vulnerable people in their riding that will freeze to death because we do not have a sustainable strategy in place for housing. And in particular, to this member's motion, those with invisible or non-visible disabilities. So, Madam Speaker, we will continue to be in a rinse and repeat cycle if we do not think ahead. And not thinking ahead means housing is absolutely a basic human need. But if you put housing in place for people who have non-visible disabilities without supports, you will be put into a rinse and repeat cycle, and it is just wasting money. Yesterday, I met with members of the FASD Rural Network. This is the Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder Network. And for those who don't know what fetal alcohol spectrum disorder is, it is when a fetus is exposed to alcohol because the mother has consumed alcohol. And the spectrum is very significant, and it can be from visible to non-visible. And many, many people live in our society without being diagnosed properly, and they need supports. They're one of many people. Think of it like autism or somebody with mental health issues. If they do not have the supports or the understanding or the diagnosis or the access to the supports they need, they will not succeed. And that is our job as government, to put policies in place and make it accessible to access this money that is supposed to be there. And under the National Housing Strategy, it is merely a nightmare to access a lot of this funding. CMHC needs a complete overhaul. Reaching Home. These are programs that are designed to say they do good things, but they are not delivering what they are meant to deliver. Since 2015, the average home prices have nearly doubled and show no signs of slowing down. And in the past year alone, average house prices have increased by over 28%. Canada now has the second most inflated housing bubble in the world. The current National Housing Strategy has been in place for 5 years, and we are currently 1.8 million homes short across this country. We've yet to see the details, like many other programs by this Liberal government, of the $4 billion Housing Accelerator Fund that is supposed to help boost the market rate supply of homes and address the numerous barriers to getting more supply online faster. And the programs that have become available through the Canadian Mortgage Housing Corporation through the National Housing Strategy have been so inaccessible when it comes to applying for and receiving funding that it is clear this government either isn't listening or isn't serious about tackling the current housing supply shortage. I can say with certainty that every member, if they speak with their constituents, if they speak with the builders in their riding, these builders are ready to put up houses tomorrow. It is the restrictions under this Liberal government that is preventing the supply that needs to be put out to help these people. I think it's important to also hear directly from those impacted the most from this motion. Canadian Housing and Renewal Association believes motion M59 is too narrow in scope. Empowering individuals to get ahead requires housing and services that support their individual needs. The NHS has been around for 5 years and hasn't met these needs despite advocacy from the housing sector. Why is this finally happening 5 years in? They do support the motion. Now, my riding of Peterborough-Kawartha was ranked as the most overvalued housing market in Canada at 107% overvalued in April of 2022. The reason for this? Lack of supply. As it stands right now, we are not meeting demand, and we haven't been building to meet the demand for 30 years. Now, while more houses are being built in 2021 and 22, 2 good years certainly does not make up for 30 years of not building enough. The population in my community has steadily risen due to immigration, but the number of new homes built has fluctuated. And there are a number of years where no new apartment buildings were built in the city of Peterborough at all. We cannot continue to build homes at the same rate as in the 1970s and think we are doing enough. We need all levels of housing built at an expedited rate, with a focus on the missing middle when we look at the housing continuum. Madam Speaker, this motion puts a focus on housing for those individuals with non-visible disabilities. Still, to fulsomely address this housing shortage, we need to look at all levels of housing, from single detached family homes to mid to high-rise apartments with 1 bedroom. We even need to look at tiny homes, Madam Speaker. Every single one of these pieces matters because they free up supply for those who need it most and keep costs down. So what can we do better to address the current lack of housing across our country? As I've outlined in this speech today, Madam Speaker, timely release of funding programs once announced. Housing can't wait for a flashy headline. Easier applications. Many of the organizations that are applying for funding of affordable units are grassroots not-for-profits on shoestring budgets, many times hiring staff solely to fill out applications and waiting extended periods to hear back on if they were successful. It is such a ridiculous system, Madam Speaker. We need to create service standards with transparency on successful applications and accountability on how many dollars remain in specific funds and where funds are going. If we've learned one thing already in this Parliament, Madam Speaker, is that this government needs to be accountable for wasteful spending. There is money that can be used properly, not reckless spending. And that is where we are losing taxpayers' money on an app that should have cost $250,000 and cost $54 million, and we don't even know where that money is. How many homes could have been built with that money, Madam Speaker? The last solution I would like to propose has been one suggested for many years by several organizations. And this is the key to leadership, and that is what is missing, Madam Speaker. We need to listen and we need to act. And this has been proposed, a permanent national housing roundtable made up of all stakeholders in the housing sphere. If we are not listening to the experts on the front lines, how do we think we can make the decisions that will best suit Canadians? It is our job to take their voice here, not bring Ottawa's voice to them. The solutions exist if we ask the experts. Let's listen, then act. Madam Speaker, people with non-visible disabilities are entitled to a home just like every Canadian in this country. It is Maslow's hierarchy of needs: basic shelter, food, clothing. If you do not have a place to live, if you do not have somewhere to hang your coat, to feel safe and to know that your things won't be taken and torn down or removed, you are displaced. You can't be a productive member to your own self, to your partner, to your employer. Madam Speaker, we have so much work to do on housing, and it is the fundamental basic need that needs to happen in order to deal with the crises we are seeing across this country: mental health, addiction, crime, affordability. Everyone deserves access to housing, Madam Speaker, and I will support this motion, but please, I hope this government has heard what I had to say today. Thank you.
L'honorable